George Soros, pleasure to have you on.
Same here.
First on Ukraine, one of the things that many people recognized about you was that you, during the revolutions of 1989, funded a lot of dissident activity, civil society groups in Eastern Europe, in Poland, the Czech Republic. Are you doing similar things in Ukraine?
Well, I set up a foundation in Ukraine before Ukraine became independent of Russia. And the foundation has been functioning ever since. And it played an important part in events now.
And the foundation has been functioning ever since. And it played an important part in events now.
People ask me all the time, hey Brian, do you really use that keto elevate stuff, and does it really work? The answer is yes and yes. Never in my entire life have I lost body fat so quickly. Not even in my prime at 25, which is over 25 years ago. I'm approaching 54 this year. If you want to support the channel and do your health a favor, grab some with my link in the description. This is something that you won't see. And guys, I do take RT with a grain of salt, but I look at all news sources, okay? And if this is going on, it's not being reported by mainstream news. And why do you think that is? Because they want to paint Ukraine out to be a democracy. The reason we're getting involved, the reason we just shoveled $40 billion over to Ukraine for ammunition. Actually, most of that money didn't go to Ukraine. It went to defense contractors, but we won't talk about that. The reason they want to do this, what it's all predicated on, is we got to protect democracy. Guys, there ain't democracy going on in Ukraine, according to reports. According to reports, what you got going on is a totalitarian police state. You got more martial law. If this is true. Ukrainian cops scour nightclubs for draft dodgers. 219 men were pulled from Kyiv venues and sent to military registration against their will. That's not democracy, guys. That's not democracy. That's enslavement. That's totalitarianism. Police in Ukraine capital of Kyiv have raided hundreds of nightclubs, handing out fines for curfew violations and drug possession, and summoning 219 men for mandatory military service, conscription. Around 420, so they drug possession and 420, interesting. Around 420 establishments were targeted in raids over the weekend. Kyiv police chief said on Monday 2 clubs were found to be operating at night, defying the city's curfew, and 413 people were found as violators of the same regulation. Criminal charges were pressed against people in possession of drugs. Oh, they possess drugs. Oh my gosh. Criminal charge. Wait, criminal? Who did they victimize? Because in order for there to be a real crime, there has to be a real victim. And if they were just possessing drugs, you just criminally charged 173 party goers just because they possessed something that wanted to make them happy? Additionally, this guy announced that his officers had searched men of conscription age for their military papers. Got your papers. Got your military papers. Guys, we're literally, and by the way, let me just say this real quick. We gave $40 billion to help the Azov battalion, the Azov Nazi battalion, the Azov white supremacist battalion. While here in America, they're condemning white supremacy and Nazism, but they're going to give truckloads of money to a military group in Ukraine, one of the most corrupt countries. Everybody knows Ukraine is probably one of the most corrupt run countries in the world. Most of whose members in the military are part of the Azov battalion, or the Azov battalion heavily influences the military. And you got no press over here questioning any of that. If you're not for Ukraine, if you don't have a flag right next to your social media presence, Ukraine flag, you're just not American. Ukraine currently requires all men between ages 18 and 60, between 18 and 60, to register for military service, and has forbidden men in this age range to leave the country. You're forbidden to leave the country between 18 and 60, and you got to register for military service. That doesn't sound like democracy, which they call freedom to me. I mean, guys, we know what democracy is. It's two wolves and a lamb deciding what to have for dinner. Democracy is not freedom. It's majority rule, gang rule. You know, gang rape is a democracy. Did you know that? The majority rules in a gang rape scenario. So they're trying to protect what they believe is freedom, because when they say democracy, they're basically talking about liberty and freedom, but it's not. It's the exact opposite. Majority rule has nothing to do with liberty, has nothing to do with freedom. Democracy is absolutely something that we need to condemn, not condone. But they believe democracy is freedom, so they're calling a country that requires all men between 18 and 60 to register for military service a democracy. They're calling a country that forbids men in this age range from leaving the country a democracy. While only those with prior military experience were initially sent to the front lines, mounting losses mean that even men who volunteered for the country's territorial defense units stationed in their homes and towns and cities as the last line of defense are now being sent to fight Russian forces. Moscow's troops are steadily gaining ground in eastern Ukraine, backed by superior air and artillery power. It almost sounds like, RT's kind of leaning one way on that. I don't know, I could be wrong, but it is RT. Meanwhile, Kyiv recently admitted to losing as many as 1,000 troops per day and is reportedly replenishing its beleaguered forces with conscripts, women, and convicts. In addition to searching nightclubs for potential draftees, military officials are serving draft notices to men, quote, at malls, recreational areas, gas stations. It doesn't matter, says a source within the Ukraine military. Unenthused at the prospect of being sent to confront the might of the Russian military, some men of recruitment age are hiding out in the countryside, while those in the cities have set up Telegram channels to track movements of recruiters and avoid being served their call-up papers. So what you got here is basically, you got martial law. You got martial law in Ukraine, and we're giving billions of dollars to a government that's enslaving its people. Guys, if conscripting between 18 and 60 and not allowing people to leave the country is not slavery, there's no such thing as slavery. I'll get this video to everybody you can by every means you can, guys. Because this is really, if these reports are true coming out of RT, and you got to take a lot of stuff with a grain of salt, because it's really hard to prove some of this stuff. But if this is what's really going on and mainstream media is not reporting on it, why aren't they? What's their agenda? While we have time and it still retains some of its perceived value, maybe it'd be a good idea to convert your worthless fiat into valuable, storable food. Don't be the one who waits till the food riots start happening. You don't want to be fighting panicking people in the store over that last jar of peanut butter. At Prepare with High Impact Flicks, you can get up to 3 air and watertight gasket sealed ammo cans, each filled with a 4-week emergency supply. 7 food varieties, 2,000 calories a day, 284 servings, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and each meal comes in a resealable, heavy-duty 4-layered pouch. And it's got a 25-year shelf life. Every order of a 4-week supply gets you $100 off plus free shipping. Here's how simple it is to make. I'm going to cook up some Granny's home-style potato soup. People are going to think I'm a culinary hero. You open the pouch, boil 4.5 cups of water, stir the contents, simmer on low heat for 15 to 20 minutes, take it off the heat, then let it set for 2 to 3 minutes before you serve it up.
Man, this stuff's so good. People are going to think Granny stopped by and filled your kitchen with a whole bunch of love.
Well, if Granny does stop by, she's going to fill your behind with a whole bunch of buckshot if you keep talking with your mouth full. Wipe your dang beard off. It's embarrassing. So maybe convert some of your worthless fiat into valuable food while you still can. Order now and get $100 off of up to 3 4-week emergency food supplies at preparewithhighimpactflix.com. The link is in the description.